He accepted a cruel bet, to win over and marry a woman who didn't fit the standards he always demanded. What he never expected was to fall in love with the plus-size bride he meant to deceive. But when the truth comes out, love won't be enough to save him. The smell of aged whiskey and expensive cigars filled the private lounge at the St. Regis, Atlanta. Nathaniel Hart swirled his bourbon, watching the amber liquid catch the light from the crystal chandelier above. At 32, he had everything. A tech empire worth $200 million, a penthouse in Buckhead with views of the Atlanta skyline, and a reputation for getting whatever he wanted. "You're too predictable, Nate," Richard Pemberton said, leaning back in his leather chair. His family owned half the real estate in Midtown. "Same type of woman every time, tall, thin, blonde, like you're ordering from a catalogue." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I have a type. So what?" "So it's boring," chimed in Marcus Wellington, their friend since their days at Emory University. He owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the Southeast. "You think you're this sophisticated businessman, but you're as shallow as a puddle on Peachtree Street after a summer rain." "Careful," Nathaniel warned, but there was no real heat in his voice. These men had been needling each other for over a decade. Richard leaned forward, a mischievous glint in his eye. "I'll bet you $50,000 you couldn't handle being married to someone who doesn't fit your precious type for 3 months. The lounge went quiet, except for the soft jazz playing in the background. Nathaniel set down his glass with a sharp click. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Marry someone completely outside your usual preferences. Someone real, plus size maybe. Someone who shops at Target instead of Neiman Marcus. Stay married for 3 months, and I'll write you a check for 50 grand. Marcus laughed. "Make it 75, I'll throw in 25,000 myself. This I've got to see." Nathaniel's competitive nature flared. It wasn't about the money. He made that in a day. It was about proving them wrong, about showing he wasn't as superficial as they claimed. "You're on, but when I win, I don't want your money. I want Richard's lake house on Lake Lanier for the summer." Richard's eyes widened. That house was his pride and joy. "Deal. But Nate, there are rules. You have to actually date her first, at least 2 weeks. Make her believe it's real, and the marriage has to look legitimate. Ceremony, rings, the works." "Fine," Nathaniel said, standing up and buttoning his Tom Ford suit jacket. "Consider it done." As he walked out into the humid Atlanta night, passing the Fox Theater's iconic marquee, Nathaniel Hart had no idea he had just made the biggest mistake and the best decision of his life. The next morning, Nathaniel sat in his office on the 40th floor of the Hart Technologies building in downtown Atlanta, staring at his laptop screen. How does one even find a woman for a fake marriage? Dating apps felt too risky. Too many questions, too much documentation. His assistant, Jennifer, knocked on the glass door. "Your 11 o'clock meeting with the investors is in 5 minutes. "Cancel it," he said without looking up. Jennifer's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. In 5 years of working for him, he had never cancelled a meeting with investors. "Is everything all right, Mr. Hart?" "Fine. Just, I need you to do something for me." He turned his chair to face her. "I need you to find me someone. A new developer, a consultant?" "A woman." Jennifer's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Sir, I'm not sure that's appropriate." "Not like that," he interrupted, rubbing his temples. "It's complicated. I need to meet someone who's different from my usual circle. Someone genuine. Someone who wouldn't normally give me the time of day." Jennifer studied him for a long moment. "You're serious?" "Completely." She pulled out her phone, scrolling for a moment before her face lit up. "My cousin Caroline. She owns a bakery in Virginia Highland called Sweet Caroline's. She's incredible. Funny, smart, doesn't take nonsense from anyone. And she's—" Jennifer paused, choosing her words carefully. "She's beautiful, but she's curvy. She's been hurt before by men who couldn't see past society's ridiculous standards." Nathaniel felt a twinge of something uncomfortable. Guilt. "She sounds perfect. Can you arrange for me to meet her?" Casually. "I can do better than that," Jennifer said, a knowing smile crossing her face. "The bakery needs a new commercial oven. It costs about $15,000, money she doesn't have right now. What if an anonymous donor made that happen?" "Do it," Nathaniel said immediately. "But Jennifer? She can never know it came from me." "Understood, sir." After Jennifer left, Nathaniel stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the Atlanta traffic crawl along the downtown connector. Somewhere out there was a woman named Caroline who was about to walk into his carefully constructed plan. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that Caroline Mitchell was nobody's fool, and she was about to turn his entire world upside down. Caroline Mitchell wiped flour from her cheek as she pulled a tray of red velvet cupcakes from the oven. The sweet aroma of vanilla and cocoa filled Sweet Caroline's, her bakery on North Highland Avenue. Through the large windows, she could see the vibrant Virginia Highland neighborhood coming alive with the morning rush. Joggers heading to Piedmont Park, students from nearby Emory grabbing coffee, locals walking their dogs. "Caroline, you're not going to believe this." Her best friend and business partner, Maya Torres, burst through the kitchen door, waving an envelope. "Someone donated $15,000 for the new oven." Caroline nearly dropped the cupcake tray. "What? Who?" "Anonymous. The letter says they're a supporter of local businesses and want to help us expand." Maya's dark eyes sparkled with excitement. "This is it, Care. We can finally replace that dinosaur that keeps breaking down." Caroline set the tray down carefully, her mind racing. In 3 years of running the bakery, nothing like this had ever happened. "This feels weird. People don't just give away $15,000. "Girl, don't look a gift horse in the mouth," Maya said, pulling Caroline into a hug. "You work yourself to the bone in this place. You deserve some good luck." But Caroline couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her stomach. At 28, she had learned that things that seemed too good to be true usually were. "Caroline?" a male voice called from the front of the bakery. She walked out to find her cousin Jennifer, standing with a man who looked like he had stepped out of a Brooks Brothers catalog. Tall, with dark hair, perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He was conventionally handsome, sure, but there was something in his grey eyes that made her instinctively cautious. "Caroline, this is my boss, Nathaniel Hart," Jennifer said, and Caroline caught something odd in her cousin's voice. A warning. "Nathaniel, this is my incredibly talented cousin, Caroline Mitchell." Nathaniel extended his hand. "It's a pleasure. Jennifer talks about your bakery all the time. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd finally try it." Caroline shook his hand, noting how soft it was. This man had never done a day of manual labor in his life. "Well, Jennifer's biased, but we do make a mean peach cobbler cupcake. Very Atlanta." "I'll take a dozen," he said without even glancing at the display case. "And whatever you recommend for breakfast." "Big appetite or big office?" Caroline asked, already boxing up the cupcakes. "Bit of both." He smiled, and Caroline hated that it was a nice smile. "Actually, I'm hoping you might have time to sit with me for a few minutes. I'd love to hear about how you started your business." Every alarm bell in Caroline's head went off. Rich men in expensive suits didn't just wander into small bakeries to chat with the owners. "Why?" Nathaniel blinked, clearly not used to such directness. "I'm sorry? Why do you want to hear about my business?" Caroline crossed her arms. "Let me guess. You're looking to invest? Buy me out? Turn this place into another corporate chain?" "No, nothing like that," he said quickly. "I'm just interested. Jennifer says you built this from scratch, and I respect that." Maya appeared from the kitchen, took one look at the situation, and immediately intervened. "Caroline, why don't you take your break? I'll handle the front." She gave Caroline a pointed look that said, "Talk to the hot rich guy, you idiot." Reluctantly, Caroline poured 2 cups of coffee and sat at one of the small tables by the window. Nathaniel sat across from her, looking slightly out of place in his designer suit among the mismatched vintage chairs and colorful local art on the walls. "So," Caroline said, sipping her coffee, "what do you really want, Mr. Hart?" "Call me Nathaniel or Nate." He wrapped his hands around the coffee mug, and Caroline noticed he seemed genuinely nervous. "And honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Jennifer mentioned your bakery, and I wanted to meet you." "That's not creepy at all," Caroline said dryly, but there was a hint of amusement in her voice. Nathaniel laughed, a real laugh that reached his eyes. "When you put it that way, it does sound creepy. I apologize. I promise I'm not a stalker. Just a guy who works too much and was told he should get out of his office more." "Well, you picked a good place," Caroline said, relaxing slightly. "This neighborhood has the best food in Atlanta. You should try Atkins Park or Murphy's while you're here. Maybe you could show me around sometime?" The words came out before Nathaniel could stop them. Caroline raised an eyebrow. "Are you asking me on a date, Nathaniel Hart?" He met her gaze directly. "Yes, yes, I am." For a long moment, Caroline studied him. She had been down this road before, men who were curious about dating a plus-size woman, who wanted to see what it was like, who treated her like an experiment. She had sworn off dating 6 months ago after the last disaster, but something in his eyes seemed genuine, vulnerable even. "One date," she finally said. "Somewhere public. And if you turn out to be a serial killer, my best friend knows 3 different martial arts." Nathaniel grinned. "Fair enough. How about dinner at South City Kitchen tomorrow night? 7 o'clock? Make it 6:30, and you've got a deal. I have to be up at 4 a.m. to start baking." As Nathaniel left with his box of cupcakes, Maya rushed over. "Please tell me you said yes to that gorgeous man." Caroline watched through the window as Nathaniel climbed into a sleek black Tesla. "I did. But Maya, something feels off. I can't explain it. Maybe it's just your defense mechanisms," Maya said gently. "Not every guy is like Trevor." Caroline flinched at the mention of her ex. Trevor had dated her on a dare from his fraternity brothers, something she had discovered when she overheard him bragging about it at a party. The humiliation still stung 2 years later. "Maybe," Caroline said quietly. But as she returned to her kitchen, she couldn't shake the feeling that Nathaniel Hart was hiding something. And she was absolutely right. South City Kitchen buzzed with the dinner crowd, the scent of fried chicken and collard greens mixing with laughter and conversation. Nathaniel arrived 15 minutes early, which was unusual for him. He told himself it was just good manners, not nervousness. But when Caroline walked through the door at exactly 6:30, his breath caught. She wore an emerald green dress that hugged her curves, her dark curly hair falling past her shoulders. She moved with confidence, her head held high, and Nathaniel realized that Jennifer had undersold her cousin. Caroline Mitchell wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. "You clean up nice," Caroline said as she reached the table, her brown eyes sparkling with amusement. "Almost didn't recognize you without the corporate armor." Nathaniel stood, pulling out her chair. "You look stunning." "I know," she said simply, sitting down. "I spent 2 hours convincing myself not to cancel." Her honesty caught him off guard. Again. "Why didn't you?" "Curiosity. And Maya threatened to lock me out of my own bakery if I didn't show up." Caroline opened her menu, then closed it. "I already know what I want. The she-crab soup and the buttermilk fried chicken. And sweet tea, obviously. We're in the South." Nathaniel found himself smiling. Every woman he had dated in the past would have ordered a salad and picked at it. No appetizer. "Mr. Hart, I own a bakery. I believe in enjoying food, not apologizing for it." She leaned back in her chair. "So, tell me about yourself. And please skip the resume highlights. I can Google those. Tell me something real." "Something real," Nathaniel repeated, stalling. When was the last time anyone had asked him that? "I haven't been on a real date in over a year. Most women I meet are interested in my bank account, not me." "Poor little rich boy," Caroline said, but her tone was gentle, not mocking. "Must be hard, having women throw themselves at you." "You're not throwing yourself at me." "No, I'm not." She accepted her sweet tea from the waiter with a smile. "I learned the hard way that men who seem too interested usually have an agenda." Nathaniel's chest tightened with guilt. "Caroline, but," she interrupted, "I also learned that sometimes you have to take risks. Otherwise you end up alone with just your fears for company." She raised her glass. "So here's to taking chances on mysterious rich guys who wander into bakeries." They clinked glasses, and Nathaniel felt the weight of his deception grow heavier. Over dinner, Caroline told him about growing up in College Park, how her grandmother had taught her to bake, how she had maxed out 3 credit cards to open Sweet Caroline's 3 years ago. "Everyone told me I was crazy," she said, dragging a piece of cornbread through her soup. "A bakery in Atlanta, with all the competition. But I knew I could make it work. I just needed people to take one bite." "And they did," Nathaniel said, genuinely impressed. "Jennifer says there's a line out the door every Saturday." "Most Saturdays," Caroline corrected. "Last month was rough. The old oven broke down twice, and I lost a big wedding cake contract because I couldn't guarantee delivery." She paused. "Then that anonymous donation happened. Weirdest timing ever." Nathaniel's pulse quickened. Maybe it was fate. I don't believe in fate, Caroline said, her eyes meeting his. I believe in hard work and consequences. Everything has a price, Nathaniel. Even gifts from strangers. The weight of her words hung between them. Nathaniel wanted to confess everything right then, the bet, the manipulation, all of it. But the words stuck in his throat. What about you? Caroline asked, breaking the tension. What does a tech millionaire do for fun? Honestly? I work. I close deals. I go to boring charity galas where everyone wants something from me. Nathaniel realized how pathetic that sounded. I can't remember the last time I did something just because I wanted to. That's sad, Caroline said simply. Life's too short to not enjoy it. What do you do for fun? Caroline's face lit up. Maya and I go to concerts at the Tabernacle. I take cooking classes even though I already know how to cook. It's just fun to learn new things. I volunteer at the community center in West End, teaching kids how to bake. And every Sunday, I sleep until noon because I can. That sounds nice, Nathaniel said, and he meant it. It is. Caroline leaned forward. Want to know a secret? Always. I judge people by how they treat waiters and how they eat. She gestured at his plate, where he had carefully cut his chicken into precise pieces. You eat like someone who's always in control, like you're afraid of making a mess. Nathaniel looked down at his plate, then at hers. Sauce smeared, cornbread crumbs scattered, evidence of someone who lived fully in the moment. On impulse, he picked up a piece of chicken with his hands and took a bite. Caroline laughed, a genuine, joyful sound that made heads turn. There's hope for you yet, Mr. Hart. As they walked along Crescent Avenue after dinner, the warm Atlanta night wrapped around them. Caroline had insisted on walking despite Nathaniel's offer to call his driver. This is my favorite thing about Atlanta, Caroline said, gesturing at the mix of old and new buildings, the diverse crowd of people. It's a city that honors its past but isn't afraid of the future. You love it here, Nathaniel observed. Born and raised. Couldn't imagine living anywhere else. She stopped walking, turning to face him. Okay, real talk time. Why are you really interested in me? What do you mean? Come on, Nathaniel. You're rich, successful, conventionally attractive. You could date a supermodel. Why ask out a plus-size baker from Virginia Highland? Nathaniel's carefully constructed walls cracked. Maybe I'm tired of superficial. Maybe I want something real for once. And you think I'm real? Caroline's voice was soft, vulnerable. I think you're the most real person I've met in years, Nathaniel said, and he was shocked to realize he meant it. Caroline studied his face in the streetlight, searching for lies. Finally, she smiled. I'd like to see you again. Tomorrow? Slow down, Tiger. I have a business to run. How about Saturday? We could walk the Beltline, get food from Ponce City Market. It's a date, Nathaniel said. As he drove home to his Buckhead penthouse later that night, Nathaniel couldn't stop thinking about Caroline's laugh, her directness, the way she challenged him. For the first time since making the bet, he felt genuine fear. Not fear of losing, fear of what he was doing to someone who didn't deserve it. He pulled out his phone and texted Richard. We need to talk. About the bet. The response came immediately. Cold feet already? It's only been one date, Nate. Don't be weak. Nathaniel stared at the message, Caroline's words echoing in his mind. Everything has a price, even gifts from strangers. He was beginning to realize just how high the price might be. 2 weeks passed in a blur of dates, laughter, and text messages that made Nathaniel smile at inappropriate moments during board meetings. Saturday morning walks on the Atlanta Beltline became their routine. Caroline would point out street art and tell him stories about the city's history while they ate tacos from food trucks. See that building? Caroline said one Saturday, pointing toward the old Fourth Ward. That used to be a mattress factory. Now it's luxury lofts. That's Atlanta, always reinventing itself. Nathaniel found himself memorizing the way sunlight caught in her hair, the way she gestured with her whole body when she got excited about something. He had dated dozens of women, but none of them had made him feel like this, like he was discovering color for the first time after living in black and white. Earth to Nathaniel. Caroline waved her hand in front of his face. You're doing that thing again. What thing? That thing where you look at me like I'm going to disappear. She linked her arm through his as they walked past the Ponce City Market. I'm not going anywhere. Those words hit him like a punch to the gut. She had no idea how temporary this was supposed to be. He pushed the thought away, focusing instead on the warmth of her arm against his. At Ponce City Market, they sampled cheese at Botiwala, shared coconut cake at Honeysuckle Gelato, and browsed through vintage records at a pop-up shop. Caroline pulled out a vinyl of Etta James. "This was my grandmother's favorite," she said softly, running her fingers over the cover. "She used to play At Last while she baked. Said it was the only love song that told the truth, that love is both relief and risk." Nathaniel bought the record without Caroline noticing, making a mental note to have it delivered to her bakery. Later that evening, they sat on the rooftop of Ponce City Market as the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city stretched out before them, lights beginning to twinkle as dusk settled. "Can I ask you something personal?" Caroline said, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Anything. Why are you single? And don't give me that line about women only wanting your money. There has to be more to it." Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment, watching a plane descend toward Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in the distance. "My parents had a terrible marriage. My father was never home, always chasing the next deal. My mother was lonely, bitter. They stayed together for appearances, for the business. I swore I'd never end up like them." "So you avoided relationships altogether?" "Easier to avoid than to fail," Nathaniel admitted. "Every relationship I've had felt like a transaction. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? There was never anything real." Caroline reached over and took his hand. "That's heartbreaking. What about you? Jennifer mentioned you'd been hurt before." Caroline's jaw tightened. "His name was Trevor. We dated for 3 months. I thought he was different, you know. He said all the right things, seemed genuinely interested. Then I found out his fraternity brothers dared him to date the fat girl for a semester. He was documenting everything for their group chat." Nathaniel felt sick. "Caroline, I'm so—" "Don't." She held up her hand. "Don't apologize for him. I just want you to understand why I'm cautious, why I question everything." She turned to face him, her brown eyes fierce. "I need to know you're here because you want to be, not because I'm some kind of challenge or experiment." The irony nearly killed him. "You're not an experiment," Nathaniel said, and it was the truth. Whatever this had started as, it had become something else entirely. "You're the best thing that's happened to me in years," Caroline smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You're not so bad yourself, Mr. Hart." As they watched the city lights come alive, Nathaniel made a decision. He would end the bet. Tell Richard and Marcus to keep their money and the lake house. He didn't care about winning anymore. He cared about Caroline. He would tell her everything, beg for forgiveness, and hope that somehow she could see past his initial deception to the real feelings that had developed. But first, he wanted to do something to show her how much she meant to him. The following Tuesday, Nathaniel called Jennifer into his office. "I need your help with something." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "If this is about Caroline—" "It is. I want to propose." Jennifer's mouth fell open. "You want to what?" "Propose. Marriage. I know it's fast, but Jennifer, I've never felt like this before. She makes me want to be better, honest, real." Nathaniel ran his hand through his hair. "I'm going to tell her about the bet, call the whole thing off with Richard and Marcus, and then ask her to marry me for real." "Nathaniel," Jennifer said carefully, "have you thought about what telling her about the bet might do? She was humiliated by Trevor. This could devastate her. Which is why I have to be honest. She deserves the truth." He pulled out a small velvet box. "I bought this yesterday." Jennifer opened it to reveal a stunning emerald-cut diamond ring with sapphires on either side. "Nathaniel, this must have cost—" "It doesn't matter. Nothing matters except making this right." He took back the box. "I'm going to propose at the Swan House. It's beautiful, romantic. I'll tell her everything first, and then I'll ask her to give me a real chance." Jennifer looked worried. "And if she says no? Then at least I was honest." Nathaniel's voice was firm. "I can't build a life with her on a lie. I won't do to her what my parents did to each other." What Nathaniel didn't know was that Caroline had her own plans for the Swan House. Maya had accidentally let slip about Nathaniel's bet the night before. She had overheard Jennifer on the phone discussing it weeks earlier and assumed Caroline knew. Caroline had spent the entire night crying, then getting angry, then planning her revenge. If Nathaniel Hart thought he could humiliate her like Trevor had, he had another thing coming. She was going to beat him at his own game. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather, sunny, mild, the kind of Atlanta day that made locals forget the brutal summer humidity. Nathaniel had arranged everything at the Swan House, the historic mansion with its stunning gardens. He arrived early, the ring box heavy in his pocket, his confession rehearsed 100 times. He planned to tell her everything before the ceremony, but Richard and Marcus had insisted on being there, for support. Caroline arrived in a simple white dress, looking breathtaking. Nathaniel's heart raced as he saw her, but something was off. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Caroline," he began, reaching for her hands, "before we do this, I need to tell you something important." "No," she said, her voice loud enough to carry across the garden where a small group of guests had gathered, Richard, Marcus, Jennifer, Maya, and a few others. "I need to tell you something first." "Caroline, please." "I know about the bet, Nathaniel." Her voice was ice. "I know your friends dared you to marry a plus-size woman for 3 months. I know this whole thing has been a game to you." The garden went silent. Nathaniel felt the ground shift beneath him. "How did you— Does it matter?" Caroline's eyes blazed. "What matters is that I fell for it. I actually believed someone like you could see past society's ridiculous beauty standards and value someone for who they are." She laughed bitterly. "I'm such an idiot." "No, you're not. Caroline, please listen." "Listen to what? More lies?" She turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Nathaniel Hart, the man who tried to marry me on a bet. But here's the plot twist. I've known for a week." Richard and Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Jennifer looked stricken. "And you know what?" Caroline continued. "I was going to go through with it. Marry you, take your money, divorce you after 3 months, and humiliate you the way you planned to humiliate me." She stepped closer to Nathaniel, her voice dropping. "But standing here, looking at your expensive suit and your perfect hair and your fake concern, I realize you're not worth it. You're not worth the anger or the revenge or even the effort." "Caroline," Nathaniel's voice cracked, "I was going to tell you. I was going to call off the bet. These past 2 weeks, everything changed. I fell in love with you." "Fell in love?" Caroline's laugh was sharp. "You don't even know what love is. Love isn't a game or a bet or a challenge. Love is showing up every day, being honest even when it's hard, choosing someone over and over again." Tears streamed down her face. "I could have loved you, Nathaniel. The real you, if you'd ever bothered to show me who that was." She pulled off the small promise ring he had given her the week before and placed it in his hand. "Goodbye, Mr. Hart. I hope you win your bet. I hope it's worth it." Caroline walked away, Maya immediately at her side, leaving Nathaniel standing in the garden with the ring box still in his pocket and his heart in pieces on the ground. "Nate," Richard began, but Nathaniel held up his hand. "Don't. Just don't." He turned to face his friends, and they stepped back from the fury in his eyes. "The bet is off. You can keep your money. Richard can keep his lake house. I never want to see either of you again." "Come on, man," Marcus said. "We were just having fun." "Fun?" Nathaniel's voice was deadly quiet. "You destroyed the best thing in my life for fun." But as he watched Caroline disappear around the corner of the Swan House, Nathaniel realized the truth. He had destroyed it himself. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of Nathaniel showing up at Sweet Caroline's every morning, only to have Maya block the door with crossed arms and a glare that could melt steel. "She doesn't want to see you," Maya said for the 15th time. "Take a hint, Hart. I just need 5 minutes to explain." "Explain what? That you're sorry? That it was all a misunderstanding?" Maya stepped closer, her voice low and dangerous. "You broke her, Nathaniel. She cries herself to sleep every night. She barely eats. Yesterday she burned an entire batch of cupcakes because she couldn't stop crying long enough to set the timer." The words hit Nathaniel like physical blows. "Please, I need to make this right." "You can't." Maya's expression softened slightly. "Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Now leave before I call the police for harassment." Nathaniel walked back to his Tesla, parked down the street. Inside, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through the dozens of unsent text messages he had written to Caroline. "I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it. You were right about everything. I didn't know what love was. Please give me a chance to explain. I understand if you never forgive me, but you deserve to know the truth. He deleted them all, as he had every day for 3 weeks. His phone buzzed. Jennifer. He had barely spoken to her since the disaster at Swan House. She had resigned the next day, citing moral conflicts with management. Jennifer, come to my apartment, now. We need to talk about Caroline. Nathaniel drove to Jennifer's place in Midtown, his heart pounding. When she opened the door, her expression was grim. She's selling the bakery, Jennifer said without preamble. What? Caroline put Sweet Caroline's up for sale yesterday. She's leaving Atlanta. Jennifer handed him a printed listing. She told me she can't stay in a city full of memories that hurt. Nathaniel stared at the listing, feeling like he was drowning. Where is she going? She won't say, just somewhere far from here. Jennifer sat down heavily. Nathaniel, I love my cousin, and I watched you fall in love with her. Real love, not the fake bet nonsense. So I'm going to tell you something, and what you do with it is up to you. Anything. Caroline's grandmother died 3 years ago. She left Caroline a letter to be opened on her wedding day. A real wedding day, not whatever that disaster at Swan House was supposed to be. Jennifer met his eyes. Maya told me Caroline opened it the night after the Swan House incident. She's been reading it every day since. What does it say? I don't know. But Maya says it's the only thing keeping Caroline from completely falling apart. Jennifer leaned forward. If you really love her, if this wasn't all just guilt and ego, then you need to prove it. Not with money or grand gestures, with truth and sacrifice. How? Figure it out, Nathaniel. But you better do it fast. The bakery has 3 serious offers already. Once she sells, she's gone. That night, Nathaniel sat in his penthouse staring at the Atlanta skyline. The city looked different now. Instead of seeing opportunities and deals, he saw the places where Caroline had taught him to really live. The Beltline where they had walked, Ponce City Market where they had laughed, Piedmont Park where she had convinced him to take off his shoes and walk barefoot in the grass. It's good for you, she had said, grinning at his discomfort. Rich people forget what real earth feels like. He had thought she was being ridiculous. Now he understood. She had been trying to ground him, to connect him to something real. His phone rang. Richard, what do you want? Nathaniel's voice was flat. Look, man, I feel terrible about what happened. You should. Let me finish. Richard sighed. Marcus and I, we were idiots. We thought we were just messing around, having fun like old times. We didn't think you'd actually fall for her. That's the problem, Richard. You didn't think at all. Nathaniel stood, pacing. Caroline was a person, not a punchline, and I was too caught up in proving you wrong to see how wrong I was for going along with it in the first place. Is there anything we can do to help fix this? Nathaniel was about to say no when an idea struck him. A crazy, probably won't work Hail Mary of an idea. Actually, yes, but it's going to cost you that lake house and probably a lot more. Name it. I need you to help me buy something. Something Caroline loves more than anything except baking. What? The West End Community Center where she volunteers. It's being shut down due to budget cuts. They're selling the building to developers who want to turn it into condos. Nathaniel pulled up the information on his laptop. Sale closes in 2 weeks. I need to outbid them and keep it running. Nate, that's going to cost millions. I don't care. I have millions. What I don't have is Caroline. His voice cracked. And if I can't have her, at least I can protect something she loves. There was a long pause. Okay, Marcus and I are in. Send us the details. After hanging up, Nathaniel called Jennifer back. I need one more favor. I'm listening. I need you to find out everything about Caroline's grandmother's letter. What it says, why it matters so much. Can you ask Maya? I can try, but Nathaniel, whatever you're planning, it better be good. Caroline isn't going to fall for empty promises or expensive gifts. I know. That's why I'm not going to make promises. I'm going to make changes. 2 days later, Maya finally agreed to meet Nathaniel at Piedmont Park. She sat across from him at a picnic table, arms crossed defensively. You have 10 minutes, she said. I need to know about the letter, Caroline's grandmother's letter. Maya's expression softened. Why? Because I need to understand what Caroline needs. Not what I think she needs, but what she actually needs. Nathaniel leaned forward. I'm not trying to manipulate her or win her back with some grand gesture. I just want to understand her heart. Maya studied him for a long moment. The letter talked about real love. Caroline's grandmother wrote that real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone even when they've failed you. It's about forgiveness and second chances and building something together despite the cracks. Nathaniel felt tears prick his eyes. She thought I didn't deserve a second chance. Can you blame her? Maya's voice was gentle now. After Trevor, after being humiliated again, how was she supposed to believe you were different? I don't know if I am different, Nathaniel admitted, but I want to be. I want to be the kind of man who deserves a woman like Caroline. Then prove it. Not to her, to yourself first. Maya stood to leave, then paused. And Nathaniel? Stop trying to buy your way out of this. Caroline doesn't need a hero with a checkbook. She needs a partner who shows up, even when it's hard. As Maya walked away, Nathaniel realized she was right. He had been approaching this all wrong. He pulled out his phone and made a call to his CFO. I need you to clear my schedule for the next month. Cancel everything. Sir, you have the Tokyo deal closing. Cancel it. All of it. Nathaniel stood, looking out over the park where families played and couples walked hand in hand. It's time I figured out what really matters. He had spent his entire life building an empire. Now it was time to build something more important, a version of himself worthy of Caroline Mitchell's love. Even if she never gave him another chance, he owed it to himself and to her to become that person. Nathaniel showed up at the West End Community Centre on Monday morning wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt. The director, Miss Gloria Patterson, a 70-year-old woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, looked him up and down. "You're the tech millionaire," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am, I'm here to volunteer." Miss Gloria laughed. "Volunteer? Baby, we're closing in 2 weeks. What's the point?" "Actually, about that." Nathaniel pulled out a folder. "My investment group just purchased the building. You're not closing. In fact, we're expanding, adding a new kitchen for the cooking classes, upgrading the computer lab, and fully funding the after-school program for the next 5 years. Miss Gloria stared at him, then at the papers, then back at him. "Why?" "Because someone I care about loves this place, and because it's the right thing to do." Nathaniel met her eyes. "But I'm not just writing a check. I want to work here. Teach coding classes, help with homework, whatever you need." "You're serious?" "Completely." Miss Gloria studied him for a long moment. "Caroline told me about you. Said you were a liar who played games with people's hearts." Nathaniel flinched. She was right. Was. "I'm trying to be different, better." He gestured around the center. "I spent my whole life measuring success in dollars and deals. Caroline taught me there's more to life than that. Even if she never forgives me, I want to honor what she tried to show me." Miss Gloria's expression softened. "She comes here every Thursday at 4 to teach the kids baking. If you're here, she'll see you." "I know. I'm not trying to ambush her. If she wants me to leave, I'll leave. But I'm not giving up on becoming the person she believed I could be." "All right then." Miss Gloria handed him an apron. "We're making sandwiches for the after-school program. You know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" Nathaniel smiled. "I'm a fast learner." Thursday afternoon, Nathaniel was in the computer lab helping a 10-year-old named Marcus, no relation to his former friend, debug a simple Python program when he heard her voice. "Miss Gloria, I brought the ingredients for today's class." Caroline stopped mid-sentence when she saw him. Nathaniel stood slowly, his heart hammering. She looked tired. Beautiful, but tired. Dark circles under her eyes. Her curls pulled back in a messy bun instead of her usual careful styling. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was ice. "I volunteer here now," Nathaniel said quietly. "Twice a week, teaching coding." "Since when?" "Since 2 weeks ago." Caroline's eyes narrowed. "Let me guess. You bought the building. You're the mysterious investor." "Yes, of course you are." She laughed bitterly. "This is exactly what Maya told you not to do. You can't buy your way back into my life, Nathaniel." "I know," he said. "I'm not trying to. I bought the building because it was the right thing to do. I volunteer here because these kids deserve someone who shows up. And yes, I hoped you might see that I'm trying to change. But that's not why I'm doing it." "I don't believe you." "You don't have to." Nathaniel's voice was steady despite the pain in his chest. "But I'll be here every Monday and Thursday, whether you believe me or not." Caroline stared at him, emotions warring across her face. Finally, she turned to Miss Gloria. "I need a different day for my baking class." "Caroline," Miss Gloria began. "Please," Caroline's voice cracked. "I can't do this." She walked out, leaving Nathaniel standing in the computer lab with a dozen curious kids watching. "Mr. Nate?" young Marcus asked. "Did you make her sad?" "Yes, I did. My dad says when you hurt someone, you gotta say sorry and mean it." "I'm trying, buddy. But sometimes sorry isn't enough." That night, Nathaniel sat in his penthouse and did something he hadn't done in years. He wrote a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter, with pen and paper. "Dear Caroline, I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or another chance. I'm writing because you deserve to know the truth, all of it. When Richard and Marcus made that bet, I said yes because I wanted to prove I wasn't shallow. The irony is that by trying to prove I wasn't superficial, I did the most superficial thing imaginable. I reduced you to a challenge, a way to win an argument. That first day at your bakery, you asked me what I really wanted. I didn't have an answer, because I'd spent so long chasing what I thought success looked like that I'd forgotten what actually mattered. Then I got to know you. Your laugh when you talked about your grandmother's recipes. The way you lit up teaching those kids at the community center. How you saw the best in Atlanta, in the world, and made me see it too. I fell in love with you, Caroline. Real love, the kind that changes you, the kind that makes you want to be better, do better, live better. I understand why you can't forgive me. I humiliated you, lied to you, treated your heart like it was part of a game. I'm not asking you to forget that or excuse it. I'm just asking you to know that meeting you changed my life. You taught me what real success looks like. It's baking cupcakes at 4 a.m. because you love what you do. It's teaching kids to believe in themselves. It's being brave enough to be vulnerable. I'm working on becoming the man you saw potential in, even if I never get to show you. Because you were right. Everything has a price, and I'm finally willing to pay it. The community center is yours, no strings attached. I put it in a trust with Miss Gloria and the board. I'm just a volunteer there, nothing more. I hope you find happiness wherever you go. You deserve all the joy in the world. Thank you for teaching me what love really means. Yours in hope and regret, Nathaniel. He sealed the letter and dropped it in her bakery's mailbox at 3 a.m. when he knew she'd be starting her baking. Then he went home and waited, not for a response, but for the courage to keep showing up, even in her absence. A week later, Nathaniel was at the community center, cleaning up after coding class when Miss Gloria approached him. "She read your letter," Miss Gloria said. Nathaniel's heart stopped. And she cried for 2 hours. Then she baked 17 batches of cookies, her stress baking, she calls it. Miss Gloria sat down. She also took the bakery off the market. "She's staying?" "For now," said she needed to think. Miss Gloria patted his hand. "Caroline's been hurt badly, Nathaniel. First Trevor, now you. She's terrified of being fooled again." "I understand." "Do you?" Miss Gloria's eyes were sharp. "Because understanding and accepting are different things. You can't rush healing. You can't schedule forgiveness like a business meeting. I know I'm not expecting anything. I'm just trying to become worthy," Miss Gloria finished. "I know. And between you and me, you're doing a good job. Those kids adore you. And yesterday, when little Jasmine said you were her hero because you helped her build that website for her mum's business, that's the kind of success that matters." Nathaniel felt tears prick his eyes. "Thank you, Miss Gloria." "Don't thank me yet. You've got a long road ahead," she stood. "But Nathaniel, keep walking it. Even if Caroline never comes around, keep walking it. For yourself." As Nathaniel drove home that night, past the Fox Theater and through the midtown streets Caroline had taught him to love, he realized something profound. He had spent his whole life running toward success and away from failure. Caroline had taught him to run toward love instead. And even if that love never came back to him, the running, the trying, the becoming was worth it. 6 weeks after the disaster at Swan House, Caroline sat in her bakery kitchen at 4 a.m., the Etta James vinyl Nathaniel had secretly sent her playing softly in the background. She had found it on her doorstep a month ago, with a simple note, "For your grandmother. For you." She hadn't thanked him, hadn't acknowledged it, but she played it every morning while she baked. Maya walked in, surprised to see her friend actually smiling while she worked. "Okay, who are you and what have you done with sad Caroline?" "I'm not sad today," Caroline said, piping frosting onto red velvet cupcakes. "I'm angry." "Angry is better than sad, I guess." Maya poured herself coffee. "Want to talk about it?" "I'm angry because Nathaniel Hart is making it really hard to hate him." Caroline set down her piping bag with more force than necessary. "He's been volunteering at the community center for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, Maya. Every Monday and Thursday without fail." "I know. Miss Gloria won't stop talking about how good he is with the kids. And last week little Jasmine told me he stayed 2 extra hours to help her finish her science project. He didn't have to do that." Caroline's voice was frustrated. "And yesterday, I heard he anonymously paid off 3 families' overdue utility bills. So he's becoming a decent human being. Isn't that what you wanted?" "Yes, no, I don't know," Caroline threw her hands up. "I wanted him to be terrible so I could move on, but he's not terrible. He's actually changing, and that makes everything so much harder." Maya sat down, studying her friend. "Caroline, can I ask you something? Are you mad that he lied? Or are you mad that you still love him?" Caroline's eyes filled with tears. "Both. I hate that I love him. After everything he did, after the humiliation, the bet, all of it, I still love him." She wiped her eyes angrily. "What's wrong with me?" "Nothing's wrong with you. You fell in love with who he really is, not who he was pretending to be." Maya reached across the counter. "The question is, do you believe people can change? My grandmother always said people show you who they are through their actions, not their words. And what are Nathaniel's actions showing you?" Caroline was quiet for a long moment. "That he's trying, really trying." She pulled out his letter from her apron pocket, worn and creased from being read hundreds of times. "He wrote this and asked for nothing. Just told me the truth. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I'm scared, Maya. What if this is just another game? What if he goes back to being that arrogant millionaire once he gets bored of playing savior? Then you'll survive, just like you survived Trevor, just like you survived everything else." Maya squeezed her hand. "But Caroline, what if he's not playing? What if he's actually the man you believed he could be?" That Thursday, Caroline made a decision. Instead of avoiding the community center, she arrived early and watched through the window as Nathaniel taught his coding class. He was different. The expensive suits were gone, replaced by jeans and simple shirts. He was patient with the kids, encouraging when they struggled, celebrating their small victories. When little Marcus got frustrated with his program, Nathaniel didn't fix it for him. He sat beside him and asked questions until Marcus figured it out himself. "That's it," Nathaniel said, high-fiving the boy. "You did that all by yourself. How does it feel?" "It feels awesome, Mr. Nate." "That's because you earned it. Nobody can take that away from you." Caroline felt something crack in her chest. This wasn't an act, this was real. After class, she waited outside the door. When Nathaniel emerged, he froze. "Caroline, can we talk?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Really talk?" "Of course. Anywhere you want." "The belt line. Our spot." They walked in silence at first, the afternoon sun warm on their faces. Caroline led them to the bench where they had once shared tacos and dreams, back when everything felt possible. "I read your letter," Caroline said finally, "about 100 times. You didn't have to respond. I didn't expect—" "Let me finish." She turned to face him. "I read your letter, and I cried, and I was angry. And then I watched you at the community center. Not just today, but other days too. I've been keeping tabs." Nathaniel's expression was carefully neutral. And I'm still hurt. I'm still angry about the bet, about the lies, about being treated like a challenge." Her voice shook. "Do you have any idea what it's like to find out someone you love was only with you because of a dare? Again?" "No, I don't. And I'm so sorry, Caroline. Sorry doesn't fix it, I know, but I am. Here's the thing, Nathaniel. I've been thinking about what my grandmother wrote in that letter." Caroline pulled it from her purse, the paper soft and worn. "She said that real love isn't about never failing. It's about what you do after you fail." She handed him the letter. With shaking hands, Nathaniel read, "My dearest Caroline, if you're reading this, you've found your person, or at least you think you have. Let me tell you something about love that took me 60 years to learn. Love isn't the fairy tale they sell you. It's not perfect people having a perfect romance. Here it's two imperfect people choosing each other, every single day, even when it's hard. Your grandfather lied to me early in our relationship. He was too proud to admit he'd lost his job, so he pretended everything was fine for months. When I found out, I was devastated. Not because of the job, but because of the lie. I almost left him. But then I watched what he did next. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to buy his way back into my heart. He showed up every day, worked 3 jobs, proved through his actions that he was worthy of trust again. The question isn't whether your person will fail you. They will, because we all fail sometimes. The question is, when they fail, do they blame you, or do they become better? Do they make excuses, or do they make changes? Real love forgives, but it also requires real change. Trust your heart, but also trust your eyes. Watch what they do, not just what they say. All my love. Grandma Rose Nathaniel's hands trembled as he folded the letter. Thank you for showing me this. I'm not giving you a second chance because you volunteered or bought the community center or wrote a nice letter, Caroline said, her voice fierce. I'm considering it because for 6 weeks you've shown up, you've changed, and maybe, just maybe, the man I fell in love with is actually who you're becoming. Caroline, but I need you to understand something. She stood, facing him directly. If we do this, if I give you another chance, it's not going to be easy. I don't trust easily anymore. I'm going to question things. I'm going to be scared. And there will be days when I'm angry about the bet all over again. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not the easy, convenient girlfriend who fits into your schedule between board meetings. I'm a woman who runs a bakery and gets up at 4 a.m. and has flour in her hair more often than not. I'm messy and emotional, and I need a partner who shows up, not a hero who swoops in to save the day. Nathaniel stood, taking her hands. I don't want to be your hero. I want to be your partner, someone who shows up at 4 a.m. to help you bake when you're overwhelmed. Someone who holds you when you cry and celebrates when you succeed. Someone who chooses you every single day, even when it's hard. Caroline's eyes filled with tears. How do I know you mean it? You don't. Not yet. Nathaniel's voice was raw with emotion. But I'm asking you to let me prove it. Not with money or grand gestures, but with time and consistency and showing up. Every day, for the rest of my life if you'll let me. Caroline wiped her eyes, studying his face. She saw fear there and hope, and something that looked like love. Real, messy, imperfect love. Okay, she whispered. But we start slow. Coffee dates. Learning to trust again. No rushing. Whatever you need. Whatever pace you set. Nathaniel squeezed her hands gently. Thank you for giving me a chance to earn back what I destroyed. Don't make me regret it, Nathaniel Hart. I won't. I promise. As they walked back along the Beltline, not quite touching but closer than they'd been in weeks, both of them knew this was just the beginning. The hard work of rebuilding trust, of forgiving, of learning to love without fear, that was still ahead. But for the first time since the Swan House disaster, there was hope. And sometimes hope is enough to start again. 6 months later, Caroline wiped her hands on her apron, surveying the chaos of Sweet Caroline's kitchen with satisfaction. Tomorrow was the grand reopening after the expansion. A new commercial kitchen, twice the space, and enough capacity to fulfill her dream of starting a catering business. Care, the investors are here, Maya called from the front. Caroline rolled her eyes. They're not investors, Maya. They're my boyfriend and his annoyingly helpful friends. She walked out to find Nathaniel, along with Richard and Marcus, carrying in the new display cases. Over the past 6 months, Richard and Marcus had worked hard to earn Caroline's forgiveness, volunteering at the community center and helping with the bakery expansion. Careful with that, Caroline directed as they maneuvered the case through the door. Nathaniel, a little to the left. Richard, you're going to drop it. I've got it, Richard grunted, though I still don't understand why we couldn't just hire movers. Because this matters, Nathaniel said, shooting Caroline a smile that still made her heart skip. When you care about something, you show up and do the work yourself. Caroline felt warmth spread through her chest. 6 months of coffee dates, of Nathaniel showing up at 4 a.m. to help her bake, of patient conversations about trust and fear and hope. 6 months of watching him become the man she had believed he could be. It hadn't been easy. There were days when the memory of Swan House still stung, moments when her old fears resurfaced. But Nathaniel had been patient, consistent, showing up day after day, proving through his actions that he was in this for the long haul. Earth to Caroline, Maya waved a hand in front of her face. You're doing that dreamy thing again. Shut up, Caroline said, but she was smiling. After the display cases were installed, Richard and Marcus left, citing important business that Caroline suspected was actually a basketball game. Nathaniel stayed, helping Caroline arrange cupcakes in the new display. Penny for your thoughts? He asked, watching her carefully place a red velvet cupcake. I was thinking about how different things are now, Caroline said. 6 months ago, I was ready to leave Atlanta forever. Now I'm expanding my business, teaching more classes, and dating a guy who willingly wakes up at ungodly hours to help me frost cupcakes. Best decision I ever made, Nathaniel said, stealing a bit of frosting. Well, second best. The best was walking into this bakery in the first place, even though I called you out immediately, especially because of that. He set down the cupcake he was holding and took her hands. Caroline, you've never let me get away with anything. You've pushed me to be better, honest, real. You've changed my entire life. You changed your own life, Nathaniel. I just gave you a reason to try. Caroline squeezed his hands. And you've changed mine too. You've shown me that not everyone is like Trevor, that sometimes people really do grow. Speaking of growth, Nathaniel said, his voice slightly nervous, there's something I want to talk to you about. Caroline's heart rate picked up. Okay. I know we said we'd take things slow, and we have. 6 months of building trust, learning each other, doing this right. He reached into his pocket. But Caroline, I don't want slow anymore. I want forever. He pulled out a velvet box, the same one he had carried to Swan House 6 months ago. But when he opened it, the ring was different. Instead of the flashy diamond, there was a simpler band with small emeralds. This was your grandmother's ring, Caroline whispered, recognizing it from photos. How did you... Jennifer helped me. Your grandmother left it for you, for when you found real love. Nathaniel got down on one knee right there in the bakery, surrounded by the smell of vanilla and chocolate and hope. Caroline Mitchell, I'm not the same man who walked into this bakery 7 months ago. I'm better because of you, I'm real because of you, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that every single day. Tears streamed down Caroline's face. Nathaniel, I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm asking you to believe in what we've become, to trust that the love we have now is worth the pain we went through to find it. His voice shook with emotion. Will you marry me? For real this time, no bets, no games, no lies, just two imperfect people choosing each other. Caroline looked at the man kneeling before her. She saw his imperfections, his workaholism, his occasional arrogance, his struggle to be vulnerable, but she also saw his growth, his dedication, his love. Yes, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, I'll marry you, Nathaniel Hart. He stood, sliding the ring onto her finger, and kissed her deeply. Maya, who had been watching from the doorway, cheered and started calling everyone they knew. Wait, Caroline said, pulling back slightly. What about your friends, Richard and Marcus? What about them? They made that bet. Don't you need to tell them they lost? Nathaniel grinned. Actually, I won. What? The bet was to stay married for 3 months. We're getting married for life. He cupped her face gently. I'd say I definitely won. Though the prize isn't a lake house, it's you. Caroline laughed, shaking her head. That's the corniest thing you've ever said. Get used to it. I have a whole lifetime of corny to make up for. He kissed her again, softer this time. I love you, Caroline. The real you. Flower in your hair, stubborn as hell, most beautiful woman I've ever known. I love you too, Caroline said, even though you're still learning how to make proper coffee, and you fold fitted sheets like a psychopath. Nobody can fold fitted sheets properly. That's impossible. I can. Of course you can. Nathaniel hugged her close. You can do anything. 3 months later, Caroline and Nathaniel stood in Piedmont Park, surrounded by friends and family. Not at Swan House this time. That place held too many painful memories. Instead, they chose the park where Caroline had taught Nathaniel to walk barefoot in the grass, where he had learned to slow down and feel the earth beneath his feet. Miss Gloria officiated, her voice strong and clear. Marriage isn't about perfection. It's about two people who see each other's flaws and choose love anyway, who fall down and help each other up, who build something beautiful out of broken pieces. Jennifer stood as Caroline's maid of honor, tears streaming down her face. Richard and Marcus, humbled and grateful to still be included, stood as Nathaniel's groomsmen. When it came time for vows, Nathaniel took Caroline's hands. "I promise to show up, every day at 4 a.m. if needed, for the rest of our lives. I promise to be honest even when it's hard, to be vulnerable even when it's scary, to choose you over and over again no matter what." Caroline's voice was thick with emotion. "I promise to trust you, even when my fears try to convince me otherwise. To see the man you've become, not the mistakes you've made. To build a life with you based on truth, respect, and love that grows stronger every day. By the power vested in me," Miss Gloria said, beaming, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Nathaniel, kiss your bride." And he did, to cheers and applause in the park where they had learned what real love meant. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, Caroline whispered, "No regrets?" "Not a single one," Nathaniel said. "Well, except maybe that bet. I regret that." "Good," Caroline said, "because I'm never letting you forget it." "I wouldn't expect anything less." He squeezed her hand. "That's why I love you." The reception was at Sweet Caroline's naturally. The bakery had been transformed with flowers and lights, filled with the people who had supported them through the hardest times. As they cut the wedding cake, 3 tiers of red velvet with cream cheese frosting, Nathaniel leaned close. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance, for believing I could be better, for loving me enough to push me to grow." He kissed her temple. "You saved my life, Caroline." "No," she said firmly. "You saved your own life. I just showed you it was worth saving." She smiled up at him. "Now dance with me. We paid for a DJ, and Maya will kill us if we don't use him." As they swayed to Etta James's At Last on the makeshift dance floor, surrounded by love and laughter and the sweet smell of baked goods, Nathaniel realized his grandmother had been right. Real love isn't about never failing. It's about what you do after you fail. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it's about finding someone who gives you the chance to prove you've learned the lesson. "What are you thinking?" Caroline asked, her head resting on his chest. "That I'm the luckiest man in Atlanta." "Just Atlanta?" "Fine, the world, the universe, all of time and space." Caroline laughed, the sound like music. "Better, but you're still on dish duty when we get home from the honeymoon." "Worth it," Nathaniel said, spinning her around. "Completely worth it." And it was. Every single moment. The hard conversations, the slow rebuilding of trust, the daily choice to love and be loved, all of it was worth it for this. A life built on truth, a love that had survived the fire and come out stronger. As the song ended and their friends cheered, Caroline and Nathaniel kissed, not caring who was watching, because this was their story. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And real was always better than perfect, anyway.